Testing. Chapter 32. Preparation. That same night, Mr. Lane told his daughter that he'd be leaving home early the next morning to be gone for 2 days. Jim was cleaning his big 45 when he made the announcement. Sammy paused with one hand on the cupboard door to ask, "With Wash Gibbs, Dad?" "No, I ain't going with Wash, but I'll likely meet up with them before I get back." There was a hint of that metallic ring in the man's voice. The girl placed her armful of dishes carefully on the cupboard shelf. You're not forgetting your promise, are you, Daddy Jim?" The mountaineer was carefully dropping a bit of oil into the lock of his big revolver. "No, girl, I ain't forgetting nothing. This here's the last ride that I aim to take with Wash. I'm going to see him, too." He paused and listened carefully to the click and click, click as he tested the action of the weapon. "To keep my promise." "Oh, Daddy, I'm so glad. I've wanted this more than anything else I've wanted in my life before. You've been such a good daddy to me. I could never bear to see you with that bad man." She was behind his chair now, and stooping, laid her fresh young cheek against his swarthy, furrowed face. The man sat like a grim stone image, his eyes fixed on the gun that was resting upon his knees. Not until she lifted her head to stand erect behind his chair with one hand on each shoulder did he find words. "Girl, there's just one thing I gotta know for sure before I go out tomorrow. I reckon I'm right, but somehow a man can't never tell about a woman and such things. Will you tell me your answer, Sammy?" "Tell what, Daddy Jim?" The girl stealing a hand across his cheek as she caressed it. "What answer would you give young Matt when he asks you what Ollie did?" "But why must you know that before you go tomorrow?" "'Cause I need to make darn sure that I ain't making no mistake in siding with the boy in this here trouble." "You couldn't make a mistake in doing that, Daddy, no matter what. No matter what. But perhaps Matt will not ask what Ollie did." Well, a ray of humor touched the dark face. "I ain't making no mistake there. I know what the man will do." He laid the gun upon the table and reached up and caught the girl's hand. "But I want to know what you'll say when he asks you. You tell me, honey, so I'll be plumb certain that I'm doing right." The girl lowered her head and whispered into his ear. "Are you sure this time, girl? Are you dead sure?" "Oh, I'm so sure that it's as if I couldn't wait for him to come to me. I never felt this way before, never." The mountaineer drew his daughter into his arms and held her close as he said, "Well, I ain't afraid to do it now, girl." The young woman was so occupied with her own thoughts and the emotions that were aroused by their father's question that she failed to notice the ominous suggestion that lay under his words. So she entered gaily into his plans for her during the 2-day absence. Jim would leave early in the morning, and Sammy was to stay with her friend, Mandy Ford, over on Jade Creek. Mr. Lane had arranged for Jed Holland to do the milking, so there'd be no reason for the girl's return until the following evening, and she must promise that she would not come home before that time. Sammy promised laughingly. He did not need worry. She and Mandy had not had a good visit alone for weeks. When his daughter had said good night, Jim extinguished the flame, and then, slipping the big gun inside his shirt, he went to sit outside the cabin door with his pipe. An hour passed. Sammy was fast asleep, and still the man sat smoking. A half an hour more went by, and suddenly the pipe was laid aside, and Jim's hand crept inside his shirt to find the butt of the revolver. His quick ear had caught the sound of a swiftly moving horse coming down the mountain. The horse stopped at the gate, and a low whistle came out of the darkness. Leaving his seat, Sammy's father crossed the yard, and a moment later, the horse with its rider was going on again down the trail towards the valley below and the distant river. Jim awaited by the gate until the sound of the horse's feet had died away in the night, and then he returned to the cabin. But even as he walked towards the house, a dark figure arose from a clump of bush within a few feet of the spot where Jim and the horseman had met. The figure slipped noiselessly away into the forest. The next morning, Jim carefully groomed and saddled the brown pony for Sammy, and then, leading his own horse ready for the road, he came to the cabin door. "Are you going now, Daddy?" asked Sammy, coming for a goodbye kiss. My girl," whispered the man as he took her in his arms. Sammy was frightened at the sight of his face, so strange and white. "Why, Daddy Jim, what's the matter?" "Oh, it's nothing, girl. It's just nothing. Only you've become so much like your mother. She used to come just like this when I was a-leaving. You're sure like her, and I'm glad for it. I'm glad that you're like the old folks, too. Remember now, you stay at Mandy's until tomorrow evening. Now give me a goodbye kiss there, honey." He mounted up hurriedly and then rode away at a brisk gallop. Pulling up a moment at the edge of the timber, he turned in the saddle to wave his hand to the girl in the cabin's door. End of chapter 32.